Hey folks, John Kelly. Welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. This podcast is being brought to you by On Target Claims, where their motto is on target from setback to settlement. Now listen, a little background. I've worked with these guys on the job, on the street for over 25 years, man, and they have always done the right thing and have always had my back. Now, in this second chapter, let them have your back. Right? You wouldn't go to court without an attorney. Why would you go up against an insurance company without representation, right? They represent you, the policyholder, when you go up against an insurance company submitting a claim. And I can tell you this, right? From beginning to end, they're going to be with you during the entire process. They're going to properly document that claim with the latest technology. And then when it comes time to getting things fixed, they've got a complete stable of vendors that are certified that are going to get it done right the first time. They also offer a pre-loss planning and policy review. So you know exactly what you're covered for, right? Make sure that you're adequately covered. The time to find out that you're not isn't after that horrific event. Okay? So give my friends a call at On Target Claims, 561-208-1775, or go to their website, ontargetclaims.com. They cover the entire state of Florida, offices in Fort Lauderdale and Tampa, and tell them John sent you. And now, let's get to the episode.
Start this thing, John.
Hey, folks. John Kelly, welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. Listen, stop what you're doing, sitting down with Nicole Ferry, and you're going to go, all right, fucking Nicole Ferry. Where do I know that name? You probably don't, but she's doing some amazing things, man. She is a keynote speaker, soon to be author. I'm going to put that pressure on her. A consultant, veteran, first responder. She is in this space doing some amazing things, having those tough conversations, man, that unfortunately we didn't have during the times that we should have. And she's bringing so much attention to overall wellness for this community. Has a presentation, a program, what the hell, the 3 things I learned in the worst year of my life. It's like, she's just, you want to talk about being vulnerable? She's the definition of it, and it's for such an amazing cause. Listen, I'm going to shut up, and I need you to help me to welcome Nicole to the show. Nicole, what do you say, kid?
Thanks, John. You do great work in your intro. You must practice that.
No, you know what? You know what's easy? I don't see. It's easy when it's somebody like you.
Yeah,
Like,
when there's connection.
yeah, it's just you're a good girl. You've got blood on your hands, man, and you've done the job, right? We talked a little bit earlier. There's a bunch of people in this space, man, that read a book and they think that that's the certification to be in this place of caring. And it's you can be very learned, but there's no teacher like experience. And God knows you've got some of that, huh?
Absolutely. So I grew up in a small town.
Yeah.
And
wait a minute. Am I picking up an accent? Is that
no.
a Georgia south of the border accent?
Oh, you wish it was. No, I'm from your home state of Massachusetts.
Oh, I love it. Another
out in the
masshole.
Berkshires.
Oh,
out in the Berkshires.
The highfalutin upper class masshole. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Big shot. Okay.
Super big shot. I was lucky enough to grow up in tourist central in the Berkshires. And so struggled through school. I was diagnosed having a learning disability. So I'm dyslexic and never gotten any help for that, but just kept working at it.
All right, help me out. Dyslexia, that's reading stuff backwards?
It can be reading stuff backwards. It can be hearing, seeing, things differently.
Okay.
Comprehensions issues.
All right.
And so in high school, I had a horrible test taking experience, right? My SATs were horrible. So when it was time to go to college, the guidance counselor sat me down and was like,
Yeah, kid. Not. Let's look at the
His
food
quote,
service
yeah, his
industry.
quote was, "You're too stupid to go to college. You better figure something else out."
Oh, that's
And
great.
so the onus was
What a great advisor.
right. So the onus was put back on me. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to figure something out, or hey, we can do this or that. It was on me. And so
Right.
this really, this person really was a defining person in my life, which I didn't know for decades.
I was gonna say it kind of did you a favor.
Well, I don't know if it was a
Well, you
favor.
didn't know it at the time,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. So he really did a number on my mental space there, right? And so a week after that conversation, I joined the Army National Guard for Massachusetts. So that was December 23rd, 1996.
Oh
I
wow. Okay.
enlist. Yeah, I enlist my senior year of high school. And I immediately start drilling with the unit. And so
Like
I went,
before you go to boot, right?
yeah, before I went to boot camp. So I have a uniform that has my name on it. I went from, doing sports and high school things, and then them telling me I'm too stupid, and then like I've gone into this whole other world where I am a part of something. I'm a part of a team. I'm a part of serving my country, serving my state. There's just like there's no other feeling than like being a child, right? I was
Right.
17 years old, being a child and like being a part of something. It was
Like you
amazing.
grew up like literally overnight.
Overnight. And I had some of these people that were obviously willing to die for me or the person next to me. And so it really started this service thing. And I think from very way on, I had a service mentality, right? I wanted to serve in some way. And I had a grandfather, I had a that had served. I had had two uncles that had served in the Army. And so but my family, as far as my mom and my dad, they were entrepreneurs and
Okay.
didn't serve, but that service was really deep into it. And so I was a military police officer in the National Guard, and came out of boot camp and went into the police academy because that's what most National
That's
Guard
that
people.
was that's a very common sense transition.
Yeah, absolutely. So worked for a couple police departments locally here. Did some patrol work. I think I got gender typed into the sexual assault investigator
All right,
role. But
who do we got?
yeah,
Well, Nicole's a yeah. You know
yep,
what? Nicole would be perfect for
yeah.
that.
So I did 10 years doing the sexual assault investigator, and
Hey,
which
can I stop you there?
yeah, absolutely.
That's insane. Listen, I that's got to wear on you a bit, right?
Yeah. So those are some of those things that I was very good at dissociating from that. Just like we are when we have
Sure.
that, that trauma, dissociating and either making some gallows humor about that, or just pushing it away and onto the next
Yeah,
thing.
throwing it in a box.
Right. But that starts some of the pinnacle piling of that trauma on, right? We just
Right.
push that farther. That would be the hallmark of how my trauma caught back up to me,
Yeah, I
right?
was gonna say, but 10 years, I'm like, that's a
Yeah, 10
run
years.
in a unit of that kind of capacity. Yeah.
Yeah. Doing child sex assault, elderly sex assault. It was a really thankless job. Um,
Sure. Sure.
so did that,
Yep.
was an acting chief for that department for a small time, and then moved on to private policing in the railroad.
Okay.
Um, the crazy,
When did you go off to the NA?
I went to the NA in 2020. So our
Okay.
4-year anniversary is actually this week. We went to the NA. So um, I was there right before COVID shut everything down.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. I'm sorry. I acting chief, and I'm like, well, yeah, you were acting chief with no NA.
With no NA. Nope.
Wow.
It was quite a few years after that I got an opportunity to go
That's
to the
awesome.
NA. So I
That's
flipped
awesome.
over to private policing and went and I worked for a railroad police department and did everything. I was a special agent. I moved over to specialized crime and did cargo theft and some different things with infrastructure protection, and then got promoted to special agent in charge. Um, I had about 10 or 11 states at any given time underneath.
Because of the routes and the rails.
The routes. And so my
Okay.
team covered 10 states and one province of Canada.
And you were
And
basically the SAC in charge of all that.
mhm,
Wow.
yes. And so that's when I got to go in that role is where I ended up
Ah,
at the NA.
gotcha. Gotcha.
Yep.
Wow. And you don't, it's funny, you don't think like railways, like, like you got to keep your eye on the ball. Like there's so many things
Yeah.
that require like a law enforcement component to just that deal directly with the safety and security of this country.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people don't understand or don't think about the stuff that is transported on
Right.
our nation's railroad. So anywhere from the hazmat to the nuclear waste to every product that you touch and you have, in your office at
Right.
some point usually touches rail in some capacity. And so um protecting physically the rail, the infrastructure to the bridges, tunnels, and then that cargo as well.
Right.
And a little known fact is that every 3 hours, someone in this country gets hit by a train, and so our nation's special agents are responding to those incidences,
Yeah.
and that is some of the most tough work is
Ooh.
to reconstruct some of those incidences at every 3 hours. That is a very busy statistic, and there's a lot of trauma that comes
I
into
would,
seeing.
listen, this is, I wish I could, I'm glad I can't speak from experience
Mm.
because I never had to investigate. I
Mm.
just had to reroute traffic.
Yeah.
Right. Like I was
Yep.
that guy. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? I'll I'll get the next light and I'll reroute traffic. How about, is that
Yeah.
helpful for you? Oh yes, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'll do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not down with all that. So
Yeah.
somebody has to be, right?
Yeah, so somebody has to, and trains don't stop on a dime. They're not like
Ew.
cars. It takes miles for them to come to a complete stop. And so those scenes can be quite
That is a
literally
crime
miles.
scene that lasts a mile and a half, 2 miles.
Yeah. So that was an interesting part of trauma that I never anticipated going into it. When you go into sexual assault, you can imagine the traumas that you're going to see.
Right.
That's something that, well, you can't wrap your head around. It's not unexpected.
Right.
Where when I
Okay.
went to went to the railroad, that was something that I didn't expect to see, or to have an engineer or conductor that was on that train have a a trauma dump on you as you first get there and tell you what it's like to hit a body with a 12-ton engine, like what that
Going,
feels
yeah,
like.
going at, I don't know, 50, 60 miles, 70
Yeah,
miles an
depending on
hour.
what it was.
Yeah.
And so those are things that I just never anticipated when I went into that role.
And so, you know, not that you were thinking that it's not something that's inevitable, it's going to happen, but the frequency of it probably caught you off guard too.
Absolutely. And then so it's one thing to show up to a scene where all of that is taking place.
Right.
It's another one to have to watch the DVR footage. Most engines, for the company that I worked with, had DVR footage, and so we would have to incorporate, our local federal, state partners on what happened. And so that could be showing up and showing the sergeant on scene, hey, like, this is the video of what occurred.
Right.
And then the sergeant's like, oh, my lieutenant's going to want to see that. So we bring this over and we show the lieutenant. And then we, like, the next person wants to see it.
And who's writing the report? Okay, well, he needs to see it.
And yes. And so they have to watch that footage over and over again was another set of trauma. That
I want to, if I can interrupt you for a second, like, there's the movies. And there's a reason why in the movies they show the moment up to and then just give you a sound and then show nothing else.
Yeah.
Because it's absolutely fucking horrific.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. The movies, they don't want to show you that because it's absolutely horrific. Yeah. And that's the real work that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Repeatedly.
And there are not a lot of special agents. There are, depending on, Massachusetts, had less than a handful at any given time. New York City, New Jersey, some of those more populated areas have a more concentration of them, but the rural special agents that are out there working, one-man posts, they are seeing a ton of trauma day in and day out.
Wow. And so you're in charge of this shit show.
I am. And so I was,
and I mean that in a loving way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I had been at an FBI National Academy Wellness Symposium in Fort Worth, Texas, and I had heard Doug Monda and Raul Rivas from Survive First.
Yeah, Survive First. Doug and Karen and Raul. Yeah.
Yes. And so there was something that Doug had said in his presentation that it hit me like a ton of bricks. Now, as I mentioned earlier, my stuff was always about the team. I was indoctrinated at 17 in the military to the big team concept, right?
Right.
Everything is in the service of the other person or the people that we're serving. And so Doug had said something to the effect of, like, what's for dinner? If the question, what's for dinner, really bothers you. And when Doug said that, I was sitting at a table and I had the cap off my water bottle. And when he said that, my hands, like, I flinched and my hands hit the table and my water dumped over, and I covered the person next to me and covered the person in front of me. Water went everywhere. I was so embarrassed. And it was like, what was it about what's for, and I was like, I hate the question, what's for dinner? I don't mind cooking dinner, but like making a decision, because the position that I was in leadership, I was never not on.
Right.
There's nobody to replace me other than when I go on vacation and I'm, like, out of the country. Like, they can always get to me by phone, but I was never not on. And so what's for dinner was just another one of those, like, it hit me, and it was like, I will flip a table.
You're screaming.
Quite literally soak an entire audience for what's for dinner. And I left Fort Worth, Texas, somewhat jostled, somewhat, like, just didn't, whatever, like, the puzzle piece shifted. And I came home and for a couple of weeks was pretty messed up. And I was like, I need to do something. And I started to work on our wellness support team at the department. And we had some stuff. You could tell that trauma was building, the suspense was building. Something was about to occur. We went on May 11th, 2022, to lose one of our special agents to suicide on duty. Okay. And that was my tipping point, losing one of my agents that I tried to help I tried to help. And so,
yeah,
mhm.
you're not oblivious to it.
Yeah,
And so it's like it takes on a different significance when you're trying to be part of the solution
yeah,
and
absolutely.
you feel like you failed.
Yeah,
Like I didn't what more could have well obviously there was more I should have done because if I did more, the thing
the
we
outcome
tell
would be
ourselves
different.
is then they would still be here,
Yeah.
which is a lie.
And if I couldn't save him, then I can at least save the other people, right?
Right.
The people that are left, I can save them.
Right.
And I was starting to show all the classic signs. All the warning signs were there. At work, I was very outspoken at work, but I had become insubordinate to leadership, right? I was telling people to F off.
Starting to get in trouble a little bit.
Well, everybody kind of gave me a wide berth, right? But
Yeah, okay.
some of, like I had very frank conversations from the top down
Yeah.
about the things that I needed for help for my agents.
Yep.
And they were saying like, hey, um it like I was insubordinate. There was
It became
there's no way around that.
very confrontational.
Yes. And so had, people say like, "Hey, you need to talk to this person or you need to talk to that person." But no one really, it was just like we're going to give her a wide berth. And at home I was a terrorist, right?
Mm.
There's just no other way of saying that. I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping, I'm having nightmares, I'm screaming in the middle of my sleep. I'm not cooking, I'm not cleaning. The only thing I am doing when I'm home is I'm on my phone with my agents trying, doing work or
Yeah.
on my computer doing work. Like I have 100% swung all the way over to I am just going to work myself out of whatever funk
Well,
this is.
if you just throw yourself completely into work, then you don't have to think about anything else.
Yes. And so if I just work harder, I can save the people that are left.
Mm.
And my mood swings are like I held my poor family. That's we had talked about our families earlier before we started. I held them hostage to my moods. Like I'd
Mm.
yell and holler and scream and I was exhausted. I couldn't sleep, but I was just it's like a walking
But
zombie.
that cycle, right? Like
Yeah.
you need sleep to repair your brain.
Yeah.
Like but you're not getting sleep because you have
Yeah.
nightmares, and so it just fucking never ends.
Yeah. And there was no end to it. I had back surgery in 2018. My back pain was just 10 on 10, right? I couldn't get any relief from that. I had migraines, I had GI issues. It was just like I
So
poor
how's
concentration.
your self care at this stage in your life, Nicole?
Yeah, zero. But I would tell everybody like, "Hey, these are
Oh,
the things you
oh,
need to
fucking
do."
work is I'm fucking dialed
Yeah.
in.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
all in.
So it was a really bad time. And this suicide happened in front of his partner. And so I'm now trauma bonded to this partner, right? I
Right,
had all this information leading up to the suicide and he had from the suicide shortly after that. So
right,
together we had almost a whole picture, at least the work side of that, if that
right.
makes sense. And
It
so
does.
um I had sought out Doug and survived first, and
Yep.
Doug had helped me get a therapist and knew because I had reached out to him saying like I need help,
Yeah.
and so Doug helped me do that through my therapist. I said, hey, my guy here at work, he's not eating, he's not sleeping, he's not doing this stuff, and I think that he needs more than the 60 minutes we're getting in
Yeah.
therapy. And she said, okay. And she's like, I said, I think he needs more stuff. And she goes, so what are you saying? And she's like, well, I'm gonna go to treatment to show him how to do it. right? I'm going to go with him. I'm not going to let this one fall through the cracks, right? I'm going to save him.
Yeah.
And so I talk to him and we go back and forth, and I'm like, let's go. And so I got on the plane, and he wasn't supposed to go with me, but I got on the plane, and they didn't. And so I end up at First Responder Wellness out in Newport Beach, California. And I am ingrained in a culture of we're doing this as a team.
Right.
And
back to the team.
Back to the team. And I am, I've been a leader for a good portion of my career, and I'm going to lead all these people through treatment, which is, I giggle now to myself because I realize how, I don't want to use the word ridiculous, but how interesting it was to dissect my dissociation. And I'll just go to leadership. Like I'll just step into that leadership role, and we're going to all do this together. And then people would relapse, or they would have some kind of episode. And I was crushed. I was hurt. And I just couldn't understand how we couldn't do this as a team. And it was a very interesting time for me.
Like, I listen to you and I go, like, it started before 17, but this is that servant heart where you will die for somebody else, right? And then you've heard the saying, but will you live for them?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the missing component here, right? Like, you would die for your team.
Yeah.
Would you do the hard work of taking care of you to live for them? And that's like this moment that you're approaching, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you say it very well. You articulate it very well. I spent the first 30 days in treatment leading where I could, whether that was cleaning the house to be like, hey, like these people, some of them hadn't been clean and forever. And I didn't have an addiction to a substance. My addiction was to helping people. And
right. That
right.
makes sense, so, Nicole. Yeah.
And so when when someone is in there for drinking, and they have an addiction to alcohol, and maybe they haven't slept in months, or like they haven't had good sleep, and this is the first opportunity that they've had from all those stresses, and they want to sleep, and I'm like, let's clean, right?
This fucking lady, listen, lady.
Yes.
Fuck off. I want to go to bed.
I want to go to bed. This is the first time I've gotten to down regulate and all these, and I want everything to be run like a military high functioning unit.
Yeah,
so to speak. So 30 days is where that kicks in, right? Like I realize, like,
yeah.
So treatment, the average stay is about 30 days.
Yeah.
30 days turns into 60 days. 60 days turns into 90. 90 turns into 120. And 120 turns into 132 days, or 4.5 months in a trauma treatment facility. And I get to know me.
How about that?
Yeah. And I think I needed another 2 months, but my family at home was, and it was Christmas time. Like, so I needed to be home. But I could have used probably 2 more months of deep one-on-one clinical therapy with the therapist at First Responder Wellness, Mune Greenberg, that doctor. She is the one true person that knows every single thing about me.
Saved your life.
Saved my life.
Yeah.
And listen, it wasn't.
Listen, you didn't know your life needed saving, quite frankly.
No, I was saving other people, right? Like it was very much about saving other people. But I came back, and I had about a month of outpatient therapy, going back to the weekly therapy.
Yeah.
And the plan was always to go back to work, right? It was always to go back to work. This was to show other people that this could be done, and that they could ask me questions about what it looks like to go to treatment, what kinds of services that they offered. And so that piece was still very hidden. Like, I'm very vulnerable about it now, but I
Right.
wasn't then.
Okay, so the plan was, but you weren't
So yeah,
sharing to the extent that you thought you were, or help me with that.
so I didn't my intent was always to share it,
Right.
but I wanted to make sure that I was still fearful about work,
I
right?
was going to say, because you would be a great example potentially of, hey, you're not going to be uh looked at a liability.
Mhm.
You're going to be looked at like as an asset, like somebody that was struggling, that took the initiative and to get themselves better. Like
Yeah,
that it could be looked at that way, which is kind of positive.
right.
Or were you
Yeah.
still kind of on the fence there about how it was all going to play out?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I did go back to work.
Okay.
And there's some stuff. I did go back to work. About a month and a half being back into work, um, I was starting to show signs of going back in, some backslide.
Right.
And the psychiatrist and the therapist took me back out of work.
Okay.
So I come back out of work. My short-term disability had been exhausted, and so that was the beginnings of my medical retirement, um, and moving through that
Gotcha.
while working on some of that treatment, and getting some medication dialed in,
Yep.
for the depression and anxiety. So I have post-traumatic stress disorder, general anxiety with panic attacks, and major depressive disorder.
Hmm.
That's what I was diagnosed at when I was in California.
Gotcha.
And that seems that has been the same. So they changed one of my medications, and I quite literally wake up probably 2 days after I first started it, and I noticed that like my vision was starting to go dark on the outsides. It
Hmm.
was fuzzy, and then it would start to go dark.
That's scary.
And yeah, but I don't think I've had LASIX in the past, and I was like, maybe
Listen, I don't like eye drops. All right.
yeah,
So you
my husband
all
does.
this whole conversation is very uncomfortable for me.
Yeah, and so I'm really depressed, right? I've this is not how I wanted my career to end.
Right.
This is 26 years of dedicating my life to something bigger than myself. This is not how this was supposed to end. I didn't want to, I didn't leave on my terms. I didn't get to do all the things. There were people that still needed my help. And it was just a very depressing time for me. And during that same time, like I was having stretches where I wasn't getting out of bed.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
It seems like, right, like me listening, you still haven't figured out that part of self-care. Like, hey, knock it the fuck off. You need to, you still haven't, that little
Nope.
dot connecting about you taking care of you still isn't hit home yet.
Right. So I'm doing the work, right? I'm journaling. I have a gratitude practice. I'm a yoga instructor, John.
Listen,
I
you're fucking checking all the boxes,
I
kid.
check all the boxes, right? I teach comprehensive resiliency for the like I
Yeah.
I should be the poster child for all of this
Self-care.
happening.
Your,
And
your name should
every
be
day,
synonymous with self-care.
yeah, and every day my vision's starting to get more, it's encroaching, right? And it's getting
Right.
less and less. And the ability to get out of bed is harder and harder. And I'm now at the point where I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this anymore. And I make the decision one morning that this is it. I can't do it anymore. And I get a call from my sister, and I'll save you all the details. But I had said goodbye to my 10-year-old daughter for the last time. I told her that I
Baby.
love her. I put her on the bus, and then that is I was going to return home
Yeah.
um and end it.
Hey,
My
Nicole.
husband, yep,
Nicole, the help me, right? Help me,
Mhm.
help me, help them that are listening, help you. So you're so smart, smart woman, right? You fucking got a servant heart. You've given so much of yourself to everybody in your circle. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is it, are you just fucking tired of being tired?
Tired of being tired. Tired of being the person who helps everyone else, but no one helps them. Right? I just wanted it to end. Right? Like
Mm.
I was so tired. I just wanted it to go away. And I didn't see any other out, any other possibility that this I had already lost a career.
Mm.
You know, I had been fighting for so long, and that goes back to being in high school and being told that,
Yeah.
you were too stupid to go to college. I I went on to get an associate's and a bachelor's and a master's and certificates and certifications to try to prove that worthiness, but at the end of the day, it was me in my pajamas in my bed. There was nobody there. It was very lonely.
Mm.
My husband, who is not a public a first responder, a public
Yeah.
servant, um, had never been given the tools to deal with a
Yeah.
first responder that was struggling. So, um, being very supportive through the whole thing, my husband was a rock, but
Right.
never being given the tools to say, this is this is normal, this is not normal. When
Yeah.
you see
Not
not
really, doesn't
normal,
have the information to know, like, hey, I need to fucking jump in here, or I just
yeah,
need to let her have some space. Right.
yeah. And so what we find out is that I had allergic reaction to the medication. And so I was on a medicine called doxepin, and I had very high eye pressure, which was making me go blind. And so at the very end,
Fuck.
you can imagine someone who is just wants it to go away, this pain and suffering, but my vision was also going. So it added to that perception that everything is a dark hole,
So literally, your world is getting dark.
is getting dark.
Literally, like
Yep.
the walls are closing in.
Yeah,
Literally.
literally. And I'm by myself. Um, it just happens that my sister had called that day, and I had screamed and hollered at her, and for the last time I had just, like I nuked her. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I
You
and
fucking
she had
went
called
all
my
in there.
husband. Yeah, she
Yeah.
had called my husband, and my husband had made it home in time. But those things that, especially for females on the job, your spouse is not if you're not dual on the job, both
Right. Right.
he just didn't have the tools to know, or the resources to say, hey, I should call this, I should call that. So he came home, and we were able to get in contact with some people. My therapist, my psychiatrist, made sure that I was monitored to come down, because I couldn't go cold turkey on the medicine to come back
Right.
down. So that had to be
How did
monitored.
that get figured out, Nicole? Like, I mean, you
That was
said you
like a
were
lot
having
of
an allergic reaction.
I don't think that they would have known if I didn't have the vision piece of it,
Okay.
right? So, very, you hear on almost every commercial on TV about the
Oh
side
yeah.
effects of medication.
You go, fuck, I'm not taking that.
Yeah, well,
Holy smokes.
suicidal ideation is on a lot of them.
Really?
A fair amount
Really?
of
Okay. Okay.
medical drugs have the side effect of,
Yeah.
of
And
suicidal
you're right. You
ideation,
do hear that. You got to pay
and
more
so
attention to that fast
yeah.
talking announcer at the end of the commercial.
Absolutely.
Oh,
So, by the eye pressure, they were able to take a look and the eye pressure, and then slowly get me off of it and monitor that. And my vision returned.
right.
Um, thank thank God.
Yeah.
Um, and everything subsided. And so
then you start feeling better?
I start to feel better. They try a new medication and I tolerate it much better. And that plan and that ideation subsides. That valve lifts, I can see again. It's not super bright.
Right.
But I can start to see joy for what joy is and start to see these different things. I also ended up going to a place in Ohio called Save a Warrior.
Okay.
And I went to Save a Warrior for one of their events, and they really were able to instill in a military mindset self-care.
Okay.
And
so you think it was maybe the way it was being delivered that just wasn't resonating with you initially?
I think that when you look at my rock bottom was the suicide, the suicidal ideation, the medication. We weren't messing around. This was, it's just exactly what you said. I had a servant heart and I will die for anyone, but will I live for them? And it was just everything lining up the right way, and the way I was ready to hear what I needed to hear.
Okay.
That was the time for. So it was a consistent meditation every single day, consistent journaling, which I had been doing journaling was something that I have been doing for years now. So that was, but the breath work, the movement of just getting up and moving some way, whether that's dancing with my 10-year-old daughter, or going for a walk, or going to the gym, just some kind of movement. Food was a big thing because I was traveling a lot. And so getting food that was fueling me instead of,
so
poisoning me.
Dialing in a little more
Nutrition.
intent.
Yeah.
Your diet and nutrition.
Yeah. And so it still hasn't been a perfect mixture of what that is. And so I'm looking, I just got accepted into Mass General's program for a ketamine trial. And so in the next couple of weeks, I have treatment-resistant depression. And so they're going to try a couple rounds of IV ketamine to see if we can break through and have some positive effects of treatment.
No, I don't mean to go down another rabbit hole, but you can't say ketamine to me and then me not ask a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
What the hell is all that about? Talk to what's the idea? What will that do? Because I know there are a bunch of, I won't even say experimental because they're not experimental. They're alternative, right? Not your primary care physician isn't gonna. They're not knowledgeable in these areas, but there's a whole science behind and an alternative medicines to use to help first responders, veterans, and first responders help with trauma. Right. So I haven't butchered that yet, have I? So far, so
No,
good.
You haven't.
Okay. And so talk to me about the ketamine treatment.
I've tried EMDR.
Yep.
I will dissociate an EMDR. I have a keen sense of how to do that. I laugh because I will choose the hard road every time. So
weird. See, listen, can I just say listen, when I'm presenting at COPS and you're presenting at COPS, I'm standing up there doing my thing and I look to the back of the room and there you are. And I'm looking and you're standing there and so, I get done with my thing and we talk and I go, what the fuck is up with you? Right. I mean, I said something to you like, all right, what the fuck? Are we dancing here? Are we swinging on each other or are we hugging each other? What are we doing? Because you are a hard fucking read, lady.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the nicest way.
And I take that in the nicest way.
Yeah.
So So if there's a hard road to go, I'm gonna take it, and it's
Yeah.
not even it's not self-conscious. It's
Yeah.
just the way it is. And so my psychiatrist said, we've tried a host of different medications, from nightmares, sleep aids, depression, anxiety, PTSD. I had DNA testing to see, it's called a test called GeneSight, which will tell you, it's a DNA swab, and they test the different metabolisms, and so what your body will process well. So you're not playing Russian roulette with your psych meds.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. So it's not, it's around $300 to have that test, but
Yeah.
I had that while I was in treatment. So I knew which drugs that my body would process well and which ones to stay away from.
Okay, well, it's an important thing to have done.
You would think so, but not a lot of people know about it.
Don't
So
even know about it. Right, of
yeah,
course.
it's called GeneSight, and it's not covered by the insurance company, but for $300, it's well
Yeah, it's probably a
worth.
good thing to know.
Yep. And so we had gone through almost all of my green medications unsuccessfully, right? We have tested some, we've had drastic, as we talked about, drastic side effects.
Yeah.
And so she said to me, I think we need to have a conversation, and if you would be open to a conversation about alternative medicine,
Okay.
and what that looks like. And so at this point, after Save a Warrior in Ohio, it was like, no idea is a bad idea. Nothing is off the
Yeah,
table.
right? I mean, let's just say
I had
give
always
it a
had
shot.
yeah, I had always had these different things about trying different things because of the job.
Right.
Like,
Right.
because I wanted to be able to still work, do all that stuff. And so
Yeah.
ketamine is one that she had suggested I look into. And so we went on this journey of
Sure.
finding a place that had done it in a clinical scenario where I would get IV ketamine. It is a compound similar to PCB.
Okay.
It's an anesthetic, a derivative of an anesthetic. So you would get ketamine if you were going to be put under for
Okay.
surgery. Okay.
Understood.
And so it does have an addictive property to it. So if you do have a history of addiction, there are some some warnings to
Right,
that.
right.
It
Oh,
can
no
be,
doubt. Yeah.
yeah, it can be lead to an addictive habit there. And so it allows your brain to go into a state where its plasticity is so you we talked about this earlier, like, so your synapses can be rewired
Yeah,
faster.
a little neuro so maybe your brain can start healing itself.
Yes. So it neuroplasticity, it helps positively affect the neuroplasticity. Now I have to say, I am not a doctor. I am not a, yeah, I did stay at a
I'm
Holiday Inn
glad you
Express.
clarified that for
Yes.
me. Yes,
Well, I
thank
just
you.
don't want you to
No, no, this is a but this is see, but this is a
a
whole
lot.
area that people know nothing about.
Yeah. So originally it was started out of Yale
Yeah.
Medical School down in Connecticut, and they were using it to treat depression. It's got some off-label pain benefits for pain,
Right.
um, PTSD, and some anxiety stuff. But mostly the insurance companies are recognizing it for depression.
And what's the if I may,
Yeah.
what's the track record like with these clinical trials and statistics? Like,
So I don't have any of that,
okay,
but I have had a few people that I know that have done it, and it has been
yes,
life changing,
very
where
beneficial.
they're, yeah, very beneficial.
Okay.
So the research had come out of Yale. Now it is, I mean, you can go to a local med spa and get ketamine with a doctor's
Really? Okay. See,
it,
this is something I don't know anything about.
mhm.
Wonderful.
So
Wow.
there is Emerald Medical is down by you guys on the east coast of Florida,
Okay.
and that's run by all special forces doctors, so all veterans, and they have IV treatments there in Florida. But
Wow.
the one I'm going to is Mass General Hospital right there
Mass
in
General,
Boston.
sure. Yeah.
And their recommended started dosing for that or times is they want to do 6 to 8 sessions. And
Okay.
so they'll do 2 sessions a week. And then they suggest that you have a therapist working with you so that you can work through some of that trauma and
Sure.
hopefully reframe and get some new neural pathways on some of those things that happened. So
Right.
again, very much like EMDR, they're not taking any of your memories away. They are
Of course
just,
not. Right.
learning to file them in a better manner
Put
and
them on page 6 instead of the front page.
absolutely.
Wow.
So just getting
Interesting.
into what that looks like
Yeah.
but it is very interesting. And I had talked to the associate director at Mass General, and I was like, do you have a lot of first responders doing this? And he said, like we've had 2 or 3. I think that there is a fear of what that means, going on. And I was like, this part to me is very interesting from the helper piece
Yeah.
I just can't wait to like, I am legitimately looking forward to my
Right.
ketamine treatment, to give me some relief of some of the symptoms that I have, and then be able to, report on what that is, good or bad.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a what a great opportunity. Listen, right? If we can't be afraid to pivot and to
Mm,
try some, listen, if the things that we're doing aren't getting us to the results, right? This is a blanket statement about life. If the things we're doing aren't getting us to the desired results, change the things you're doing,
yeah,
right? Don't keep doing the same things expecting something different. This is a departure from the norm,
right,
which may be the thing that allows you some reprieve and helps you get back to being more the way you want to be.
right.
I mean, go for it. I think that's awesome. I think that's really awesome. Um, it's been a run, kid.
Yeah,
It's been a run. And you know what? Can I say this? Like, so this is the classic situation. Like, I look at somebody like you, and you've got the world by the balls. You've got everything going on. You know what I mean? It's like it's these like, but like that's the thing. Like, who's taking care of the person who's out there taking care of everyone else? Like that's an addiction. That's a problem. And if we don't pay attention to that and acknowledge that that's a thing, like
hmm,
you don't need to be addicted to alcohol or heroin or or sports betting or addiction's an addiction. Um, and I think more than not, most first responders suffer from that. It's kind of why we got into this line of work. It gives us our sense of purpose and meaning. And so when that's taken away,
yeah,
listen, it's easily masked. It's easily masked when you're in the profession because that's what you're supposed to do. You're a good boss. You're supposed to take care of your people. The fact that you do that at the expense of taking care of yourself is fucking horrible. And that's we're realizing that that's not a winning formula.
right.
But then when you're not doing the job, that addiction's not getting fed anymore, and neither are you taking care of yourself.
Right. And it's a spiral that it's
I
hard
was
to
gonna
get
say the
out of.
next word out of my mouth was you spiral.
Yeah. And you're seeing this a lot in retirees as well. I mean, obviously my end was tragic in my own right, but the retirement community of our first responders. Now we're not tracking suicides as well as we should be with active duty, never mind the
Listen,
retirement.
retirees. They don't count.
Yeah. And
Gonna tell you they don't count.
Yeah.
And that's a shame.
When you talk about that identity and you taking off that armor, depending on how long you did the job, 5 minutes, 5 years, 5 decades, like that armor is an identity and it keeps you safe. Mm-hmm. When you take it off, there's nothing left but gooey
it's just you. It's just you. And are you enough?
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
And that's what I found out when I was in treatment. From the burliest of guys to the hard charging, like it was all about self-worth and all thinking whatever they did was never enough.
Yeah, no doubt. That's crazy. It's crazy. The thing I kind of would like to put out is that we are all the same. Like we all, to a greater or lesser degree, struggle and have the same thoughts. And and it's at what point do we do something about it?
Right.
Right. And you're doing some things about it right now, which I'm excited. I'm excited. Can I ask you the 3 things you learned from the worst year of your life?
Absolutely. So I had to ask for help. Right. The first one was asking for help, reaching out, not for someone else, but for me.
That's like you're like a lot of what you did was like, hey, I have a friend that has
exactly
like, what the fuck? Just say it's for you. No, I've got this friend. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this for you guys so you can see how we get through this.
But I drank my own Kool-Aid, John. Like I legitimately in my head.
I know, but it's just looking back at it, you're just like, fuck.
It was there.
Just say, I need to go to treatment because I'm literally coming off the fucking rails, which is a perfect analogy because we are with the fucking trains.
Yeah.
Off the rails.
Yes. So the first thing was reaching out for help.
Good.
Right. Finding someone that you trust, finding someone maybe that has nothing to, just finding somewhere to go. And there are plenty of people out there willing to do that, whether it's COP line, whether it's texting 988, like
how about like somebody in your circle, hey, I'm not doing well, I'm having a fucking hard time here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Team approach.
Having those honest conversations and not letting I'm good be like a period.
Yeah.
Like I'm good. Yep, I'm good.
We need to be just as comfortable saying, you know what, not good. Yeah. And be okay with not being good.
Yep. So help was the first one.
Perfect.
I had to start to heal. And that took, as you heard, a very long time to peel back all that stuff, all that armor, to get to the inside to say, we've got to start doing some consistent healing. Not checking the box, but actually being in the moment, being present, being mindful about what healing looks like. And that could be anything from dancing in the garage with my daughter, or it could be, like being in group therapy.
Hard question. You ready? Hard question. Yep. With reflection and hindsight, how do you know that you're actually doing something beneficial or you're just going through the motions?
So I'm a very checklist oriented person, as you can imagine. The military did for me. So I will do something and then write it on my list so I can check it off. So that has been a very hard thing. And weekly, I have to sit down and say, I had intentions of doing this, this, and this, and how I feel. So things that I wanted to accomplish in ways that I wanted to feel. So I have to go back and do a self-assessment every week and say, did I check the box or did I really?
Okay. Hold yourself accountable.
Hold myself accountable. Now, checking the box at some things aren't always bad. You just have to make sure that they're not long stretches. Right. Like I didn't go a month checking the box. right?
Okay.
If I went a week and I was checking the box, okay, now I realize this is what I was doing. Next week, we're going to make sure that we're present for whatever that was.
Does your journaling help you stay accountable to that?
Yes. Yep. I have a little check boxes at the front. Did I have any professional help? Did I see a therapist, a doctor, anything? Like that's a check. Did I have a social engagement? Did I have some kind of social interaction, whether through a text? I'd rather it not be in a text message,
Or
but
an awesome conversation during a podcast with a new friend?
absolutely. But that I had some kind of social interaction with a human today.
Yep.
Because when in my darkest time, I was in bed not having those,
Isolate.
like I was isolating.
Yeah.
Physical movement. I've had some kind of physical movement. I've eaten more, like, because at some points I would go days without eating. And so have I had anything to eat?
Listen, people don't understand. Like that's a thing.
Yeah.
Like you need to.
Yeah.
That's something that you need to monitor.
Right. Did I journal? Did I read? And at that point in my life, I was addicted to helping. So self-help books were like crowded everywhere, right? Did I read something that was not self-help related? And I make sure that I read 10 pages of something in a day so that it helps me with my dyslexic, like that.
So almost deprogram you from those addictions of helping others.
Yeah, absolutely. And to make sure that I've done all of that, and then to give myself grace of like, I will not go without meditating, and I will not go without eating at least once a day. And like if I didn't get to the journal that night because we like Christmas, because we
Right.
were up
Something
late,
ran late or whatever. Life
that's okay.
happened. Life happens.
But my meditation has been done. I've moved and I've had a social interaction and I've eaten. So those are like the four core things that I've done. So I've had I asked for help.
Yep.
I got some healing, and that provided me some hope. Because through those self-assessments, I can start to take myself out of a situation and notice my daughter doing different things that I never like. She has Barbies. She's 10, and I was able to sit down. I hate Barbies. I hope
Weird.
Mattel.
You know what? You've just offended a very large population of my
Population of
listenership.
your listeners.
They all go to the Barbie movie. This is troubling.
I didn't get to see the Barbie movie.
I'm gonna have to edit this out now.
Yeah. But I was able to sit down and play Barbies with her. So I look at those moments of like Nicole 2 years ago, Nicole 1 year ago, Nicole 2 years ago, Nicole 3 years. We were not doing these kinds of things. We didn't have any time. It was work, 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 the team, the team, the team. It was never about my kids. It was never about my family or my husband, unless you needed help or somebody to take charge and plan something, because I can do that as well. But it provided me hope with looking at these small little interactions with my families and with others that really were starting to make an impact on me. And it almost felt like a little bit of melting. It was like the Grinch when his heart grew 2 sizes too big. Yeah. Right? Like it started to melt some things. And so I learned to ask for help. I learned some ways to heal and not check the box. And it provided me hope that there was something other than public safety in the traditional ways of serving, that my service now looks different, and that I think my legacy and my ripple will be different in this world than it was carrying a gun and shield.
I will argue with you that this second chapter will be more impactful. And I don't think you need any convincing on that. It's already coming to fruition, a lot of the things that you're doing.
Absolutely.
Help, heal, and hope. Yep. Help, heal, and hope. I love it. You've had quite a run, kid. And you know what? I appreciate you going down this road with us. You know, it's we we're all in this thing together, and then we're not. You know, and I think that some of the lessons that you learned that you're paying forward is it's invaluable, because this is the thing, like we talked about it a little earlier, like you can tell people all day long, hey, listen, fucking stove's hot, don't touch that stove,
Yeah.
this is what you need to do, and without going through it, it's kind of like just like some advice or whatever, like, oh, like, I know I should do that. You're like putting real context to the importance of self-care. And thankfully, you got the kind of help that you needed, and you're continuing. That's the other thing I think that's kind of awesome, is that we, it's a work in progress. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think your growth, that your growth and development never stops.
Yeah.
Right. And that's by design, by the way. There's no
Right.
such thing as a perfect life. And we just got to keep trying to be better today than we were yesterday. And
Yeah.
listen,
Absolutely.
I love you for that. Thank you for taking the time to share that with us. If folks listen, because you present an amazing program, you really you speak so much to the heart. If people want to get in touch with you, they need more Nicole Ferry in their life. Who
Doesn't
doesn't?
everybody?
Who
Yeah.
doesn't? How can we get in touch with you? How can we have you come to our agencies or speak at our organizations? Because I love your message.
Yeah. So you can go to NicoleFerry.com, and
That's
that's my
simple. Yeah. Holy smokes.
super simple. So you can follow, or you can go to NicoleFerry.com, and if you're interested in hearing my story, there's, you can reserve a date on that. Yeah, I'm also on LinkedIn, and so Nicole Ferry on LinkedIn as well.
I'll put all your
And
information in the show notes too, to
yeah,
help people that
absolutely.
they don't have to be writing stuff down as they're driving, and all
Yeah.
that good stuff.
So I'm presenting in at the FBI National Academy in February on a wellness panel. I'll have
Nice.
2 of those coming up in February, and then I'm the guest speaker at the Survive First gala in Orlando in April.
Well,
So,
guess what there, hot shit. Mrs. Kelly and I will be at that gala
oh, very nice.
in
Well, I look
Orlando.
forward to seeing you. Hopefully, I see you
And
before then, but if
oh
not,
no, that would be
definitely.
great. Yes. But no, I already have my tickets for the Survive First Gala in Orlando. And I have to buy a tuxedo, because I walk around with 5'11" shorts, Chucky Taylors, and a law enforcement life coach.
Yeah, my husband's not excited about the tux thing, and I was like, "Oh, you'll get over it."
Yeah. Tell them Men's Warehouse. Can't go wrong. They
Yeah.
dress you like with the Garanimals. You're gonna look like a rock star coming out of there.
Yeah.
Holy
I'm
smokes.
really excited about their Survive First gala. They were the one when I said that I
Yeah.
reached out for help.
Doug and
Um,
Karen.
Doug and
Yeah.
Karen,
Rhonda,
Raul,
Raul,
Chris,
Rivas. Great
uh,
people.
Rich Creamer, like those guys helped save my life, and to be able to have that platform to thank them. And then all the people in between, between meeting people like yourself at COPS and having immediate connection, even though you were like, come at me, bro.
Yeah.
In
Well, it
Orlando.
was immediate, Boston Northeast
Yeah,
connection
this is the
there.
Massachusetts what's up.
It's too
And
funny.
and it has been one chance meeting on top of another that has allowed some of that healing, but also has added to our network of,
Yeah.
hey, I know somebody who knows somebody that can help you out.
Yep.
So when we talk about getting help, there are so many places that you can find that, but talking to people, talking to your partner in the cruiser next to you or someone on your shift. I mean, we all know who the ones that are suffering.
Right.
Just.
We don't have to make it any more difficult. It's not
that
difficult. Just have a conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
My pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, Nicole Ferry, you're a sweetheart, and I'm looking forward to seeing you real soon in the not too distant future.
Yeah. Thanks,
and
John.
that is that, my friend.